Hello, hello, welcome to another Get Social stream. And this week it's going to be a little bit different. You'll notice that I'm not joined by Jordan this week. I'm joined by Brian, and we'll intro Brian in a second. But firstly, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with us this afternoon or this morning, wherever you are in the world. We're really pleased to have you here, and I'm very excited for this session because it's a slightly different. We're always doing, and we're taking a completely different track, and a very important track when it relates to how we can increase the impact of our social content. So really pleased to be joined by Brian, or with Brian, from TikTok, and this is going to be a really good one. So let's get into the slides straight away because there's a lot to share with you today. Really excited for this one. If we've not yet met, I'm Andy. I'm one of the product managers working on Adobe Express. My whole background has also been in social content, whether it's building social platforms, etc. So really pleased to be doing this session. As you'll know, you'll tune into these Get Social streams every couple of weeks. We're talking about social media trends, updates, new features, etc. And for this episode, we're going deep on TikTok sound specifically. And there's no better person for that than Brian, who I'm joined with today. Hey, Brian, how are you doing, man?
Doing well, thanks. Good to be here, Andy.
Thanks for joining us. So yeah, do you want to give a bit of an intro and let's get into it?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here this morning. My name is Brian Cosgrove, and I am the head of commercial licensing at TikTok. Last 5 years, my team has been working on creating the products and the partnerships and the policies that help brands and users make great content using some really great frontline music. We're really excited to be in partnership here with Adobe Express and bringing the commercial music library into their platform. And Andy's going to give you a great demo of that later in the session. But I wanted to kind of kick things off by giving you all a primer on the opportunities to work with music on our platform and why that matters. And then we'll get into how to tap into that, how to tap into fandom before we get into the demo. So kick it off. We've got a great video, and we'll start there and then head into the details.
There's a lot of noise about sound in the digital industry. From re-imaging jingles into
when the beat drops,
re-engineering songs for TikTok virality. Brands and artists are exploring new trends to break through the noise. Sound produces trends. Influence culture.
Just start that one. Start that one again. Hopefully we've got sound now.
There's a lot of noise about sound in the digital industry. From re-imaging jingles into sonic
when the beat drops,
to re-engineering songs for TikTok virality. Brands and artists are exploring new trends to break through the noise. Sound produces trends. Trends influence culture. Culture spreads through TikTok. We're plugged in, listening, and taking action, producing product features, stories, and opportunities for brands and creators. We are at the forefront of sound innovation. We believe sounds tell.
Once upon a time,
Music moves audiences. And TikTok has the tools, open to all creators and brands, to build the future of sound. The answer is loud and clear. It starts on TikTok.
Great. So love a sound hype video. But diving in, TikTok is a place where brands, artists, and creators come together to discover and engage with music and fan communities. As a content vertical, music content was viewed over 6 trillion times in 2023, and 52% of our users are actively searching for music and concert content and engaging with music and concert content on our platform. All of this engagement leads to music consistently being in the top 10 most engaged with content verticals on our platform on a yearly basis. And music isn't just discovered on TikTok. If you're a business, it's also driving great impact for your campaigns, for your content. And music is very much associated with hitting core KPIs like brand awareness, user sentiment, and even sales conversion. We commissioned a study in 2021 with Kantar that found that 72% of respondents would be more likely to stop and look at an ad if it contained audio. And 40% of users said that they would remember a brand better if they posted with a song that they liked. What this leads to is a 6% lift in purchase intent and a 9% lift in brand favorability.
That's so interesting. Like brand favorability, do you mind explaining a little bit more about what that means, Brian?
Yeah, it's, user set brand. So if a brand or a small business is using music in their ads, again, this is kind of, I think, driven by the idea of users stopping and looking at the content or being more engaged with it. As a user goes down that kind of rabbit hole and gets more engaged with the brand and more engaged with their content, they begin to, kind of grow or nurture these feelings towards a brand. And in most cases, that is a more favorable opinion.
Love that. I think that statistic that you just spoke to as well, like 72% of people would stop and look if it contained audio, is absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. Yeah. So for anyone that's on this call thinking about like, how can I grow my reach? How can I increase the impact of my content? I think that's a big clue in that. That's for sure.
And then, so we're not the only ones that believe this, right? In 2023, Ogilvy put together their trend report where they were trying to spot, what were going to be the big brand elements going into 2024, and music was at the top of the list. So what they found was that in the 18 to 64 year old range, wanted a brand to have a distinct sonic identity. And 75% of those respondents also said that they connected better with brands that had a distinct audio identity. This was one that was really fascinating to me, but they found that sound contributes 8 times more than other brand and content elements to a consumer's affinity with a brand. That included logos, colors, slogans. So sound was really like at the forefront there for a lot of users when content. And then, overall, they found that TikTok ads with sound drive significant lift in sales conversion and, again, brand favorability.
Asset resonance stat blows my mind, because I never consider it when you're thinking about what a brand means. Like the sonic element of it, it's got to be so infrequently considered. It's fascinating, Brian, actually.
For sure. And I think, we're going to get into some case studies here so we can, illustrate these points, I think, quite well. With the first step on the next slide being our own sonic identity. We really feel strongly about this as a platform, and we practice what we preach. And so in 2022 and 2023, we worked with Massive Music and created our own sonic identity, which has quickly become one of the most recognizable sonic identities on the planet. And so we have a video here on the case study.
And TikTok is like the playground of the internet.
It's the last sunny corner.
TikTok is a highly democratic place creatively.
And it really represents creativity and joy.
Which leads us nicely onto our concept. Could we create the sound of creative democracy?
It it has this first kind of sub-bass hit, which would really represent that musical kind of heritage on the platform. And then it has a second half, which is this kind of ascending melody. And that wasn't the only thing that we did for TikTok.
We created a Sonic DNA, which is a longer form track. It's a central core piece of music for TikTok.
And then the really nice final part of the Sonic system that we created was what we're calling Sonic stickers. And these will live on the Sounds library and are already being embraced and remixed by the community on TikTok.
The TikTok project has definitely been an epic journey.
It was a big challenge, but every sound was worth it.
So brand awareness for us, very important, especially, as TikTok videos go off of our platform, pop up all over the place, having that hit for us it's like a bit of a calling card, right? And, so again, that brand awareness, very, very important. And if you have the opportunity to work with sound in that way, it's something that, all brands should consider. On the asset resonance side, we wanted to show a case study here on American Eagle. They went out and did a partnership with an artist named Catherine Lee. It was a first of its kind partnership for our platform, and at the time was one of the most successful campaigns that had ever run on our platform, and not only performed well on TikTok, but also was picked up in the national media for how viral it went and how successful it was. With some think pieces in the New Yorker and other publications calling out like what an important partnership or what an important element the sound partnership was for this. So quick case study here as well.
Just like summer never ends. I can't help but love that style. It always seems to make me smile. Oh, every time I see it, my heart goes up, and I can't seem to make it stop. Try to keep it all so cool, but whenever I'm close to you, I got such an idiot, and I'd be over it. I'm far from being over.
Love it. So to clarify, Brian, just a quick question on that. Like, was that sound created specifically for this campaign? Right, the track you just heard.
Yeah, they worked with the artist. The song existed. They worked together to tailor it a little bit more to
Got it.
Eagle as it came out, but it was already that she had in the arsenal. In partnership with that, and they drove, Oh, my bad.
Just like summer never.
Next up, we wanted to hit sales lift. This was another big area that we spoke about earlier. And Trident went out and did a partnership with Chloe Bailey and did a specific song for their campaign, which led to over 9.5 billion views and 120 million units sold as a result of the campaign.
Joy. Joy. Big puzzle can't figure me.
Great. And then lastly, this was the product launch for Nitro Pepsi on our platform. And again, driving product awareness was a very big goal from this campaign. It was one of the core KPIs for them, and they drove almost 100 million impressions from.
Stay smooth. All right. So they rockin' with me. Show you how if you let me.
Great. So we've talked about the success that brand videos can have and the brand campaigns can have, but I wanted to pull it back a little bit into like fandom itself and kind of the core of the TikTok platform, which is user engagement and fans getting involved with and genres. So we know that music fans come to TikTok for a lot of different reasons, and once they're on our platform, they get really engaged. They different content, dances, choreography, etc. And all of that drives enormous engagement. What's really unique about TikTok is that when these fans come to our platform, they are looking for a very distinctly sound-on experience, which is driven by music content discovery. So TikTok users are more likely to discover music on our platform than the average user of social or short-form video platforms. We did a report in 2023 with Luminate that dug very deep into the user habits of music fans on our platform, and we found that in Germany and the UK, over 90% indicated that they were more likely to discover music on TikTok than on other platforms. And we saw, really significant numbers in other territories as well, including the US and Brazil.
What do you think's the driver of some of that and why it's more effective on TikTok, Brian?
I think, kind of going back to our last slide, like our users are looking for a sound on. You can't sit on TikTok with the sound turned off. I know that sometimes in my house, people wish I would watch TikTok with the sound off. But that's not the user experience, right? The user experience is very much engaged with that sound and with that content. And I think the way that the way that the content is kind of sticky, right? Where we like to think about TikTok as from the music side as a bit of a remix platform. Not that we're actually remixing the songs, but that people take an idea, they see something that they like, and then they iterate on that. And a lot of times those ideas are organized by the sound that they're associated with. And so you might see a dozen videos all with the same song, all as a variation of an idea. And I think that really leads to creators really getting involved in driving the culture or driving the value of the music on the platform.
Yeah, it's a really good call out. Really cool.
And so then, across all key markets, TikTok users are significantly more likely to share music-related content with their friends and followers across their accounts compared to users of other social or short-form video platforms. And so we found in the UK, users are actually over 2 times discovering users are that aspect too of sharing the music and sharing the content with your friends is another core separator of TikTok than other platforms.
So that point about making it more shareable, how do you see users typically sharing that content? Are they sharing it in the DM? Are they taking it offline to things like WhatsApp, or is it more what you're referencing where people are remixing content, doing their own version of the sound? Where do you think like the real like core of that sharing experience and why people are more likely to share on TikTok? What do you think that is, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think the content goes all over, right? Like I see it on other social platforms, but I also see it in group threads that I'm on, text messages, and DMs, etc. So I think that the content in and of itself is so joyful and so creative that it lends itself to wanting to be shared. But again, that kind of like sticky element of it where you're going to see it on other platforms very frequently is also important.
Yeah, I love that.
And then, another big area that I think is worth focusing on, and something, if I were making predictions on 2025, if I was thinking about trend reports for 2025 right now, I would say that, subcultures and subgenres are going to become increasingly important. When you have a genre, we could say electronic music, right? Everyone knows that there's dozens of subgenres of that. You might be into EDM, you might be into minimal or techno or deep house or whatever it is. And each of those subgenres comes with its own culture or with its own content graph, really. And so if you look at K-pop, like we have it here, it exists obviously in Korea as a very important genre, but there are other top markets, including Indonesia, Japan, and the USA, that engage with this stuff frequently, and it lends itself to specific types of content. K-pop is oftentimes synonymous with really intense, highly choreographed dances or lip sync challenges. And the fan content that's generated across the globe with K-pop artists or K-pop songs is really on idol culture, focuses on live performances, appearances. You have the fan cam type of content. And then it has its own aesthetic too. So K-pop provides exposure for new cultures, but it also encourages new fashion, new beauty trends, and new lifestyle content. And why I think that's really important to focus on if you're a brand specifically, or even if you're a creator, is that it's fine if you want to use a song of a specific genre or want to partner with with an artist from a specific genre, but then to really take advantage of that, knowing what type of content that you should be creating with it, where are the best markets to break through with your content. All of that can be kind of mapped against a genre or a song if you think about the culture that is associated with it. So finally, like most music fans, TikTok users experience music on via a lot of different avenues. They don't just discover music on TikTok, they actually go off of our platform and out into the real world and consume music either via streaming platforms. We found that 88% of our users have a streaming service that they use, and a vast majority of those users actually pay for that streaming service. But they're also out there going to concerts, going to experiential events, purchasing merchandise, purchasing tickets, and really, kind of being consumers of music. So fandom on our platform is unlike any other place, but it also really kind of has this halo effect of getting our users engaged and involved off of the platform as well. And so finally, if you're ready to start your music journey, the easiest way to tap in is to get involved with our commercial music library. And this is, at its core, a extensive library, over 1 million songs in the library currently, including background music. If you like to do explainer videos or tutorials or unboxing, we have music that's really great for that, and editorialized on playlists, for those types of videos. We have some of the latest trending music on our platform is in the commercial music library. $1 Million Baby by Tommy Richmond, Nasty by Tinashe, Photo Shoot by Gucci Mane. Some of the biggest songs of the summer are all within the commercial music library. And most importantly, it's all available for brands and for users in monetized content and advertising content, and it doesn't require any additional fees or any additional licenses to use it in your content on TikTok. And because we know that users like to create on TikTok, but they also have other platforms that they like to edit their content in, we've been on a mission to meet users where they are, which has driven our partnership with Adobe and Adobe Express specifically, as we've brought our commercial music library into Express as of June of this year. So we're really excited about the partnership, and I'm happy to toss it back to Andy to give you all a demo of how it works.
Nice. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. A couple of questions for you before we start jumping in, actually.
Sure.
So I think it's a really important point. It's worthwhile emphasizing about like the realities of the commercial music library for brands. I think it's often like a misunderstood gray area of social, because a lot of brands will leverage music or sounds for their commercial content without actually realizing some of the legal implications of that. So the fact that this is content that is safe to be used for commercial reasons is such an important point to call out, really. I think we're still quite in its infancy when it comes to what we can or can't share. We've seen some pretty high profile court cases, right, where people have been sharing things that then, it has been a meme, it's been shared across social, but when a brand gets involved, the dynamics are a little bit different. So yeah, this is super important. And I think sometimes, however, Brian, I think speaking on behalf of like smaller businesses, those organizations that don't necessarily have a background in music and sound and have the same level of experience, sometimes can feel a bit daunting, because this is new, right? Even blew my mind that like, I forget what the stat is, but like recalls 8 times higher because of like the sonic element of a brand, which often isn't considered as part of a brand. So I think this is opening up a whole new realm of possibility for individuals, small businesses, large businesses, etc. So like for a brand getting started, and we'll talk about Adobe Express in a second, like, is there any kind of tips that you might have with brands jumping into this for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have a team that's working constantly to make sure that the library is relevant and that you're finding music that is relevant to your content. So you'll see here, on the right, that we have banners highlighting, the newest music that's coming into the platform, or we have, we're highlighting trending songs, stuff that's going viral. But we also have a recommended section, which is algorithmically driven and gives you some suggestions on music to use in your content. And we've got all of these great playlists that our editorial team works on, including the viral playlist, which shows you, the top songs that you can use on the platform right now, new releases highlighting, some of the premium artists that we're bringing into the platform. And a lot of the work that we're doing here is to make it as easy as we possibly can, to keep the creative flow going, right? Like we don't want choosing the right sound to be something that causes a stumbling block or causes you not to post, right? Like we want to make it easy for folks. So the tools that we're providing here, especially on the editorial side, we have worked very intensely on over the last couple years. So get in there and explore it, and I think you'll find sound not to be quite as intimidating as maybe it seems like it is from the outside looking in.
Love that. Yeah, really good advice. Thanks for that, Brian.
Yep.
Right then, well, let's move on over to Express here, shall we? And let's make that a little bit bigger. So for those of you that are not familiar with Adobe Express, for those of you tuning in for the first time, for example, let's give a quick high level, and we're going to then like close a loop and link it into everything that you've just been sharing, Brian, and then really start to lower the barriers to Brian, your point you're making, lower the barriers to entry, whether you're a small business, whether you're a solopreneur, a creator, large business. This should work across all sizes of organizations, and with ways that you can easily work with sounds in your content and start experimenting. We're going to show you how you can do that in Express. But firstly, for the uninitiated, let's give you a bit of a high level tour. So this is the home of Adobe Express. And in most cases, Adobe Express is available for free. It's included as part of like Creative Cloud subscription. So most likely you already have access to this. So there's not going to be very many barriers to entry if you haven't used Express before. So this is the home screen, And the idea of Adobe Express is really the best of Adobe for the masses. It's a front door to Adobe. We don't need to know Photoshop, Illustrator, Lightroom, or the Adobe Creative Suite. You don't need to have a knowledge of those to be able to leverage and get the best from Adobe Express. It's designed to help anyone of any creative ability to express themselves in ever increasingly imaginative, creative ways. And with the partnership with TikTok, it really just takes it to a whole other level, which we'll connect the dots around slightly later on. So here, when we get started, based on whatever we want to create, we are recommended some for you content based on the type of content that we typically create, which is always a good way of getting started. If we have an idea of what we want to create, we can just get started here. Given that today we're thinking about TikTok and this is what it's all about, clicking into social media, and if we're heading to Adobe Express to start creating for social, this can be a really good place to start. So here, we could look in our TikTok video here and get started here. We can get started from scratch or browse templates. We're going to do that in a second. And as you can see here, we've got a bunch of recommended templates. And of course, front and center, the TikTok commercial music library integrated directly into Express. And we'll show you how we're going to bring to life a project from scratch in a moment and show you how we can integrate TikTok sound directly into our content and get that published to TikTok too, all from one platform, which is pretty cool. All right, so whilst we're on the home screen now, I always find this is a really good starting point. If you don't quite know exactly what you want to create, you know that, I want to build something for TikTok, don't quite know where to start. A great place to start is inspirations for when you just need the some inspiration around these templates. So here we can choose some different filters. If we want to look at type, I've just filtered on video templates for now. As you can see, the majority of our video templates are laid out in a way that is optimized for TikTok, right? So we're looking at vertical video here. Of course, we could search it based on whatever our preferences are, depending on your use case and what you're trying to create for. Maybe your hair salon, for example. This could be a good template to get started with. And as you scroll through, your imagination will be sparked by all of different inspiration ways that you can get started. Of course, each of these are just one single starting point, right? You can change everything in a template. So let's just say that we're gonna create something to market our salon here or barbershop, whatever it is. Everything is fully editable, and we can change any of these components and build again. So all we're using this for is just the start point for our inspiration. We can just swap this out. Like for example, maybe we've got some video that we've taken on our phone. Such a nice way that we can just swap some video that we've shot directly on our device and immediately just have this rendered in a template. Now, I'm going to talk about brands in a second, but the kind of real nice output of the brand capabilities in Express, let's just say we're going to use this brand here. It's a fantastic way that you can make any of these templates feel uniquely yours just in one press. There we go. Our brand colors and our fonts have been rendered on that directly, and then we can just go ahead and add in our logos as well, which we'll see here. So appreciate this slightly random example while we're talking about the Live Well Eatery, and whilst we're showing a video of someone getting their hair cut, but work with me on this. But you just see the idea of how quick it is to go ahead and get some inspiration from those templates and be able to start building using your brand kits. Now, you don't need to have your brand kit, but it does make life real easy, and you can create all of this in Express. So this is an example of a brand kit that we've set up here. So where we've got our logos, our color palettes, fonts that we like. And the important thing is here, even though we've looked at some templates to give us some inspiration, it's important to know that we can save any of these templates directly to our brand. So we don't necessarily need to build this brand from scratch. We can evolve it over time. It's going to help us get started increasingly quickly with every creation we make. So we've made this creation, for example, we can go ahead and share it. We can make it a template just with one click, and that template just lives in our brand, and we can just work from it from there. So quick recap of where we're at, some of the fundamentals of Express. really easy, intuitive design tool that's built around for the best of Adobe, but made incredibly simple. Got a whole bunch of templates to spark inspiration from like a visual perspective. And of course, you can save all of the elements that you create in your brand kit, an ever evolving resource that allows you to easily apply your brand to anything that you create, which makes everything feel just uniquely yours straight off the bat. So here, let's use this example. So I've actually used a template that I've made earlier. So I've made something that feels a little bit more relevant for this. And let's go ahead and start switching this up. Even though I've saved it as a template, it retains all of its customization ability. So here, if we kind of play it through, there's no sound in this. We'll be adding sound shortly. But here we've got a video that's all about promoting our latest range in our Living Wells store and our cafe here. So what we can do is start to switch some of this content around to make it even more dynamic, even more focused for TikTok as well. So let's go ahead. I'm going to click on this element and I'm going to replace this component. So replacing is really, really useful because it's just going to swap this particular image. I'm going to swap it for a video. So hit replace. And then we can start replacing this based on whatever we're looking for. So we're going to look in some libraries. Nothing found for cooking, but don't worry, we're going to sort this out because we are going to head to media here in this instance, and we're going to look for some stock content here. So this is another really powerful component of Adobe Express. You know, Brian's already alluded to the importance of like the commercial library, music library, and how you can use some of these sounds directly in your content, which is brand safe, perfectly okay for you to use for your commercial reasons. Same with Adobe stock content as well, whether it's stock videos, stock photos, etc. All of this is commercially safe, free for you to use, which is frankly quite an astounding thing. So here we're going to go ahead and take this video and we're going to embed it here. Now I'm going to optimize this video a little bit, place it. As you can see, we've got these guidelines just to help us space this appropriately. That looks good. I can also center this appropriately to make sure I've got the most compelling element of this. Just going to adjust the timeline. So I'm going to collapse this video down here, move that down. And I see I've got a little layer behind it. Going to get rid of that layer behind. So there we go. So now we've changed something that was static to something where we've got some animated elements to it. We've got some transitions between our scenes here in this. So as you can see, as it's playing through. So we've got something that looks, yeah, it's an ad. Yeah, this is to promote a business, but we've got something that's a lot more dynamic. So here, really nice and easy way to create some visual content, some moving content, animated content that ultimately lowers the barrier to entry for anyone doing this. Now, I've skipped a few steps, but it's important that I kind of share what we're doing here as well. So here I've added transitions between each of these scenes. You notice that I've made this into a 3-scene video. I can move and collapse each of these elements appropriately. And I can also apply animations to each component, or I've got this bungee in effect here, but I'm actually going to change that to fade. So this also, because I've toggled on show layer timing, I can choose when these elements come in as well. So that's a nice way that we can start timing our creations appropriately. So again, you don't need to be a video editor to do that. Kind of drag and drop, move it around, and now we're creating something that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do the same here because I want to carry on with this kind of video theme. So I'm going to remove these elements here where we've got these static pieces because we want to increasingly make it a bit more dynamic, this. And let's kind of show some of this content. Of course, we're using stock content here for the purpose of this demo, but this works even better when you're using your own content too. So let's go ahead and bring that in. Cool. So let's just shorten that just a little bit. There we go. So now we've created multiple different scenes in this video, along with some stock video content, which really starts to bring it to life in a new, more dynamic way. So essentially, we've turned something that was quite static into something that's both video orientated, and also we've got animated elements, transitions between those different scenes, animating different pieces of text into. So we've got a lot of control. All right, so we'll get back to connecting the dots to this now. So what we've got here on the left-hand side is add-ons. So add-ons is a really important part of Adobe Express. There's 150 add-ons right now, and add-ons are an incredibly powerful way of extending the utility of Adobe Express. So typically from anything from AI orientated voiceovers to AI talking heads to animation tools to color blindness simulators, an incredible mix of capabilities that both increases the accessibility of your content, the ease of creation, and overall impact of your content. And typically add-ons is like the place that I go to whenever I'm creating something and I think, oh, I wish Adobe Express had this feature. You'll typically find it in add-ons. Consider it's like the App Store, but for Express. And the vast majority of these, like 90% of them or so, are entirely free for you to use as well. So not only is Adobe Express entirely free, most of these add-ons are free. So again, we're talking about lowering the barrier to entry to allow anyone to express themselves and express their creativity. All right, doing a quick time check to see where we're at. Okie dokie, so we're ready to get into this. So I'm just going to search TikTok here. So let's go to Symphony Assistant. Cool. So this TikTok add-on renders on the right-hand side here. Now I've got a whole bunch of ways that I can use this. I'm actually going to clear this chat for now, and we can use this as like a start point. So this Symphony Assistant, we'll talk about the commercial music library as part of this. This is an incredibly useful thing, and this is essentially like having a social strategist sat next to you as you're creating your content, and it's someone that has all of the latest insights into TikTok. So really, this is quite possibly the most useful assistant for social content you'll find. So for example, we've got some example prompts here. And of course, it's a chat-based interface. You'd all be familiar with this by now, of which we could just type whatever our question or our curiosity, wherever our curiosity takes us, we can just go ahead and search it in there. But for example, we could look at what's trending on TikTok right now. So here we go. We've got some trending hashtags. Again, this can guide our content creation. And the nice thing about this is, like, let's say Viva Mexico. I mean, we don't just want to blindly include that hashtag in our content when it's not necessarily relevant here. However, this can give us some really interesting. If we go here, we can see what's happened to Viva Mexico, and we can get some inspiration based on that. So celebration, this is so cool. I absolutely adore. Every time I see this, Brian, I just nerd out on it because it's just like the coolest thing. So we can see what the related interests are, and like, what, in 30 seconds, I've got a reasonable sense of what this is all about. So, and also the geos, etc., what it's all about. So with that can give us a whole bunch of inspiration. And I think this is an important thing when we think about sound too, because sometimes sound is a bit of an afterthought. And to be honest, even in the example that I'm creating here, it's an afterthought. We're adding audio to something we've already created, but we can actually think about sound the other way around, where we could think about what sounds are working right now and create content on that basis. Yeah, I'm interested in your take on that point, actually, Brian. Like, do you see brands like adding sound to content, or sound being the driving force behind the strategy of like the creation of a piece of content, if that makes sense?
Yeah, look, I think it goes both ways, right? I think, the really successful culturally relevant content that we see really does start with trends on the platform, and whether that trend is being driven from the music element or a hashtag or whatever, like it is I think it's important for brands to think about what's resonating on the platform before they start creating. And as we said before, that idea of the remix culture on our platform, where it's iterations on an idea. It's not just I'm going to do this the same way that this other person did, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to put my spin on it. could be applied to anything from a hashtag to a sound. So Symphony is a great tool to help start that creative process, where it's like maybe you don't have all of these elements that you already know you want to use. You can get in there, see what the content graph looks like, and start creating relevant content immediately.
Love that. Yeah, it's such an important point. And I think, like, from my own personal perspective, TikTok's just changed the social game entirely. It's kind of flipped it on its head, where it's less about what we create as brands. I mean, that's still important. It's less about like what we create and we come up with. It's equally about curating what's happening in the feed, looking at what's trending and building off of that. It's not always about creating from scratch each time. So I think it's a really important point you make. So here within the Symphony Assistant, we've got some other starting points. So you've got some other ideas. We could go ahead and brainstorm some creative ideas. It's going to give us some suggestions. Of course, naturally, progressively, it's going to get smarter, because it'll ask us some questions based on our industry, what we're trying to do, and it can write some ad scripts for us. So again, unlocking our creativity, giving us our start point. So it's a really useful thing. But of course, find trending TikTok music. So here, let's look at some recommended sounds. So here we've got some suggestions based on sounds. We can obviously search more if we need to, can go into that. We could start, if we got some specific searches we want to do, we can do that. We can filter them out as well, genres, depending on what we want to do. So let's have a look at what do we want for this particular piece of content. We could look at something that's a bit more Latin inspired if we want to. So there we go. We've already started to get some recommended sounds based off that. So not only can we get suggested some content that's, some recommended music. So it's essentially taking some intelligence from what we're creating and giving some suggestions based on what would work best for this. And of course, just as we've seen from these examples in the top hashtags, where we've gone into that in a little bit more detail, we've found some detail about what Viva Mexico is. Naturally, we could access the commercial music library directly, as Brian was talking about here, directly on TikTok, and find some of the the extra fidelity of detail around that if we want to. So it's always a very useful resource too. So heading back onto my tab when I can access it properly. There we go. Right, so let's just go with this one. Let's preview the sound. Feeling that, actually, going to go straight with that. So adding that directly into our content. There we go. So now we've got our organic ladybug sound directly here. We've just recently added this as well, so we can see the sound waves as well. An important part of like creating content with a sonic element, making sure your cuts are at the right point. So here, just by sheer chance, we got some cuts at the right point here. So this is looking pretty good. Let's actually just play it through. So we played it through without any sound. So let's see what the sonic element does to this. So as you can see, like, whilst this creation is taking us 30 seconds or so to actually put together, having that sonic element to it totally lifts it, and it really starts to change the dynamic of a content. So to be honest with you, even though it's kind of bowled over by the statistic that you shared earlier, Brian, it makes perfect sense, because you can change the feel of a piece of content immediately depending on the sound that you use. I think on that basis, is there anything you want to add at this point as well, when we're thinking about like choosing sounds, any best practice guidance or anything like that, Brian, at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great aspects of the integration here is that actually all of our playlists and everything are also available. So all of the editorial is still there, and you can get into kind of a deeper flow of the music. You can kind of get in there and see what's trending. You can see the viral songs. You can see the the top songs on the platform. Again, like this summer we had Tinashe, we had Tommy Richmond in there. and that was really driving culture. You're seeing a lot of those songs on television now also, and kind of going off platform. And being able to tap into that editorial section, I think, even within the user flow here, is really exciting and a great way to to explore. So easy to get involved, right? And as you saw here, it's like you can filter, you can search, and it's going to give you a lot of different suggestions. So try it all out, and live well eatery here sounds like it's quite a vibe. But you could change it up a million different ways with the sound.
Yeah, love that. So let's take the final couple of steps in this creative process. So we've created it. We've got some inspiration from the homepage of Express. In this instance, we had built a brand, and we'd created a template that we've saved, and we've modified that template to make it a little bit more TikTok focused, swapping out some of the static content for some stock video, of which equally we could have just used some content from our own device, from our phone that we've shot. So it's a real nice easy way that we can start elevating the content that we've shot on our phone. Or if we don't have any content, which is sometimes the case for organizations, you've got access to the stock media library, which is okay for you to use for commercial purposes. Now with that, naturally we've added some sound elements to it. We've understood what's happening on TikTok. We understood like the trending hashtags, if we want to apply some of those, and some of the cultures around that, and also then looked at our trending sounds, and very quickly with one click added in a trending sound which is commercially safe for us to use. At that point now, we want to get this gone. We want to publish this. So we've just added a couple of other new features as well here. We could publish this directly to TikTok Ads Manager because, Brian, you called this out earlier. It's part of the commercial music library, so it's okay to put money and spend behind as well, an important thing. So this is a really nice way of just seamlessly integrating Express into your workflows, because if you run ads on TikTok, of which sound is an increasingly important part of, and very effective. I've run quite a few ads on TikTok in my time, so it works incredibly well. So this is a real nice way that you can just take what you've created and then ship that straight to Ads Manager for you then to do your targeting, budgetary stuff, etc., and just go from there. Again, just putting that whole workflow on rails, lowering the barrier to entry to make accessing content creation, accessing the right sounds, and accessing how you kind of unleash that on TikTok incredibly simple. And of course, we can publish this organically too. So here we can just press on the TikTok icon. And then here I've got my TikTok account connected. You have the ability to connect multiple TikToks if you want to as well. Let's say you're a creator and you run, or a business that runs multiple sub brands. You could work at it like that. If you want to, you've got some options where you can disable comments, duets, or stitch. I very seldom do that because that's the whole joy of the TikTok community, interaction, allowing people to do like takes on it, do a riff on it, etc. And we've also added the ability to have AI generated captions, which has been trained on captions from social content. So the outputs tend to be really good. So I'm going to I can just call this Drinks at Sunset, which is our kind of our campaign that we're creating for this Live Well Eatery. I'm going to generate a new caption off that. So there we go. So this is now going to generate us a caption with associated hashtags, of which we could insert. I will do in this instance, but naturally we're going to want to go ahead and switch this up. One of the things that I use quite regularly here is whenever we right click on anything or select an area of text here, we can just go ahead and rewrite this too. So it's a real nice way of like continually editing the caption as well to make it as compelling as possible. So just going to rewrite that section. There you go. I'm just going to pop in a rewrite from that and I can just insert that. So it's a real nice way of just having someone else, basically another assistant editing you, making sure your copy is good, and kind of allowing you, if you're, a little bit wordy like I am sometimes, as you can probably tell, it's a nice way also of you just kind of selecting an element and saying, hey, actually, you know what? This is for TikTok. It's not necessarily about reading the captions. Can we just shorten this one, please? I just need a punchy opening hook and the rest of it just to keep it a little bit short. So there we go. So that's done. I can now preview it. So preview it with a sound. Preview's super useful because here, this is where we can start thinking about our safe zones as well. So is our content going to overlap with anything here? So if we had our brand logo down the bottom or in the bottom right, for example, that would be a no-no. So in this instance, here we look here, we're good to go. So now we're happy with how that looks and how that feels. We can just go ahead and I'll schedule this one because I don't want to publish it to my account right now. I'm going to schedule this one for next week, let's say, and let's choose a time as well. Let's just do it for around 6 p.m. Let's go ahead and schedule that. So of course you might not want to publish in the moment because you want to build a scheduling calendar. We'll want to make sure we've got a good cadence of content going to TikTok, which we can do. And then in the kind of final flow, what we can do is come back to our home screen, hit on schedule. And this here is our multi-channel publishing calendar where we can see the content happening across multiple different networks. We can drag and drop and move it around if we think, actually, you know what, our sunset drinks campaign is starting next week. So let's just move it to next week, for example. No dramas at all. Nice way that you can stay organized with your publishing schedule across multiple different accounts. So super easy. And the whole idea is for Adobe Express to be like that end-to-end platform to allow anyone to express themselves, pardon the pun, creatively. And as you'll see from the add-ons of like the Symphony Assistant from TikTok to the commercial music library to the ability to schedule content, you'll notice that it's just become an incredibly streamlined end-to-end process that I really hope that everyone else finds that as a real nice, easy way for you to kind of unleash your creativity, start to think about how we might use sounds in our content. And I know today, I don't know about you, but my mind has definitely been blown with some of the kind of capabilities and opportunities afforded to us through like a sonic element of our content. So Brian, before we close out today, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
No, this is actually the first time I've seen the scheduling function, and I'm excited about it for my own content. But really, this was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you having me today to speak about the music on our platform and the commercial music library. Again, we're so excited to be partnered with you all on this, and excited to see all the great content that Adobe users create with music and publish to TikTok. So thanks so much for having me.
Amazing. Thank you, Brian. And with that, I think we're about at the end. So thank you so much for everyone joining us. I really hope you found this session really useful. I learned a ton. So thank you, Brian. I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time back with Jordan, and we'll see you on the flip side. But otherwise, until then, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.